Hey guys, welcome to my legal classes. This is Ganesh Pujari, and in the series of Law of Torts, in next 4 videos, we are going to understand everything about tortious liability. In the first video, we are going to understand when does liability arises in tort, or everything about the basics of tortious liability, and after that, we are going to understand Damnum Sine Injuria, Injuria Sine Damnum, and Ubi Jus Ibi Remedium in 3 independent videos with lot of case laws. The first video, that is what is tortious liability, we are going to understand this concept with the help of a beautiful chart. This is a single slide presentation, not taking much of your time. Let's get into the only slide I have to understand when does liability arises in tort. When does liability under tort arises, or what is tortious liability? That is the first question we need to answer. Liability under tort arises when there are 3 ingredients fulfilled, or to understand tortious liability, we need to understand there needs to be existence of 3 factors. The first one being there needs to be a civil wrong. We understood tort means civil wrong. So when there is a civil wrong and such civil wrong is causing injury or damage to someone, okay, that is the second factor or the ingredient. And finally, for such civil wrong which is causing injury or damage to someone has remedy or damages. Now when we see all 3 aspects together, we say there arises the tortious liability. To make it simpler, if a particular civil wrong is causing injury to someone's right, and for that if there is a legal remedy, that is known as tortious liability. Well, after listening to so much of lecture, you might be already feeling that this is a very easy concept. I'm happy if you are feeling so, but that's not the end of it. Guys, if you see, there are 3 ingredients. The first one is a civil wrong, and then that is causing injury or damage to someone's rights, and finally such damage or injury will attract certain amount of damages or remedy. If you closely observe, there in the second and third ingredients, you are seeing damage and damages. One has damage, D-A-M-A-G-E, the other one has damages, D-A-M-A-G-E-S. Yes, I am specifically mentioning that S because that one small s is going to make hell lot of difference. So you guys need to understand every single term in this slide very clearly. Unless and until you understand this slide clearly, you are not going to understand the entire Law of Tort series itself. The tortious liability is the heart of this entire study of Law of Tort. So I ask or request you guys to stay till the end of this presentation to understand every single term that I have put here, because they are going to play a very important role throughout your study of Law of Tort. So let's break and understand every single ingredient in a very detailed manner, starting from civil wrong. What is a civil wrong? To understand this, we need to use a simple illustration. The illustration goes this way. Mr. A is responsible to take care of Mr. X. Mr. X's health is not good, and every day before he go to sleep, he has to eat a tablet which is of 500 mg. Now what does A do? Instead of giving 500 mg, he gives 1000 mg's tablet. Now he has done an act which he was not supposed to do. On the other hand, if A one night doesn't give any tablet to Mr. X, now what is A doing? He is omitting something that he has to do. Okay, so an act which is not expected to be done, or an omission which was expected to be done, both are wrong. And when they are civil nature of wrong, they are called as civil wrong or breach of duty of care, or an act or an omission which is not expected by a person becomes a civil wrong. To understand an act which is considered as tort, I can give few, like for example trespass, assault or battery, defamation or slander, etc. Likewise, an omission, you are expected to do something but you are not doing it, and because of that, if you are causing breach of duty or you are failing in duty of care, then that also becomes civil wrong, for which I have a beautiful case law here, that is Glasgow Corporation versus Taylor. What happened in Glasgow Corporation versus Taylor case? Remember, this is a very important case law and a landmark judgment whenever there is a discussion on an omission. What happened here? Glasgow Corporation had a botanical garden, and in that botanical garden there were some poisonous plants. Now the error that Glasgow Corporation did was, it neither put any notification as to presence of poisonous plants, nor it put serious barricades to restrict entry of the public to those places where there were poisonous plants. One day what happened? A 7-year-old boy entered that place and saw some berries or fruits in those poisonous plants, and as usual, children have this tendency of eating fruits from anywhere and everywhere. The child tried to eat these berries, and because they were poisonous, he died instantly. Now the father of this 7-year-old boy sued the Glasgow Corporation for not putting notifications regarding the availability of the poisonous plants in that area, and also not restricting people entering to such areas which are dangerous. Now the court held that yes, it is the negligence of Glasgow Corporation which caused the death of the 7-year-old. The omission of the things which were required, like putting notification or putting barricades, were the error or mistakes by Glasgow Corporation, so they need to be pay compensation to the father of that 7-year-old child. That is what the judgment was. So that's about an omission. Now an act, if you are doing something which is not expected out of you, that becomes a civil wrong, or an omission which you are expected to do but if you are not doing, that also becomes a civil wrong. So that's about duty of care. To do something is duty of care, and when you are not doing, that is breach of duty. Or if you are doing something which is not expected out of you, that is also breach of duty. That is all about the first ingredient. I hope that is very clear. The only thing there you need to remember in addition is, we are discussing everything civil here, not of criminal nature. Once we understand the first ingredient, now that we need to understand the second one, which is causing injury or damage to the legal rights of another. Now you have done or committed a civil wrong which is causing injury or damage to the legal rights of another, and that causing injury or damage to the legal rights of another is the second ingredient. Now whenever we are understanding causing injury or damage, we need to understand this as legal injury or legal damage. What is the meaning of injury or damage under tort? This is injury, loss, harm, which can be in the form of money or some other form also. For example, comfort, service, health, etc. you can put in injury. Okay, these are the legal injuries. Now, while reading ingredient 2, you are seeing damage. Damage under tort can be legal damage or legal injury, which expresses the meaning of loss, harm, etc. But in the third ingredient, you are seeing damages. The moment you see damages with S, that is talking about remedy or compensation. So damage is a legal injury whereas damages are discussing about the compensation part. So that one very simple difference you should always remember. Now let's understand the legal rights part, because whatever civil wrong has been committed is causing injury or damage to the legal rights. So we need to understand legal rights concept in a little detailed manner. What are your legal rights? We can divide these legal rights into two different parts like private rights and public rights, and can understand it in more detail. Private rights like right on your body, right on your property, right on your reputation, all of these are your private legal rights. Now, nobody should enter your property without your permission. That is your private legal right, where if someone commits that, then it becomes trespass. Or nobody should touch your body, and if they cause some kind of annoyance because of that, then we are discussing about assault, etc. And your reputation is your private legal right, and nobody should defame you. That is also your right. Now if somebody is causing injury to those private rights, then they are violating your legal rights by committing such civil wrongs. So that's the first part of your legal rights. Now coming to public rights. What are the public rights? Public legal rights are like your right to use a particular passage or having light, etc. are your public legal rights, or to avoid any kind of noise or smell. All of that are coming under public legal rights. Now private legal rights are your absolute rights, whereas in public legal rights again there are complications. If you are going and saying okay, somebody is causing some noise and I am disturbed, and if your neighbors are all living peacefully without having any problem, then the court will say okay, this is the common problem available there and everybody else is living with it without any difficulties. And if you are coming without having any substantial evidence that you have gone through substantial issues, then the court will not consider that. So there you need to be same with others. If everybody face problem, yes, court is definitely going to attend it. If it is only you who is going and the rest of the people are not making any noise about it, then it will not be considered. So that needs to be substantially more problematic for you, or everybody is going with the same problem and court is seeing for everyone together. In that case, public legal rights are seen in the same manner. Otherwise it is not going to get any additional kind of focus to you. That is one very important thing that you need to remember whenever we are discussing about public legal rights. But private legal rights, of course, if there is anything called trespass, assault, defamation, all of that, they are civil wrong against your private legal rights. So you can always ask for damages or remedy. Now in legal rights, again we can see two categories. One is absolute, the other one is qualified. How to understand this now? Imagine you have a property and you have put a notice that trespassers will be prosecuted, and if somebody is trespassing, okay, now they have caused injury to your private legal right. So that is a problem, that is a civil wrong, so that is a tort. That absolute legal right you have. But there are few legal rights which are said as qualified legal rights. For example, you are giving your land on lease to someone, and in turn what they do, they develop the land, okay, but such development is not done with your permission. Now most of the people will appreciate, okay, you have took my land and improved it, but there are some people who say okay, I have given it for some purpose and you have done something else, so I don't like it. Okay, if they want to say it as a tort, yes, it can be considered as civil wrong because it was not with the permission of the owner of the land. So they are qualified, based on case to case they will be seen. So that is about qualified legal rights. Now we need to understand these many aspects when it comes to legal rights. And in a nutshell, what we need to understand, if somebody is violating or causing injury or damage to your legal rights, then they are committing tort. Now we have understood it can be private rights, or it may be public rights, or such rights may be absolute or may be qualified. All of that we understood. But before we concluding saying that okay, causing injury or damage to someone's legal rights becomes a tort, we need to understand the liability position also. If it is direct, in that case liability arises. If it is remote, in such case liability doesn't arise. What is this direct and remote liability positions? Imagine you are riding a vehicle negligently, and because of your negligent riding you caused an accident, and that accident injured someone. Now that is the injury you caused. Okay, now that is tortious liability arises there, because of your negligent driving or riding somebody got injured. That is direct liability position, because your act caused injury to someone directly. On the other hand, imagine you're riding and you caused an accident to a boy. Because of your negligent riding you caused an accident and the boy got injured, and the boy's mother was standing in 7th floor of some apartment and she saw this accident, and looking at her son getting accident, she got heart attack and died. Now what happened here? Your action remotely caused the death of another person, but here the law of tort very clearly says that liability doesn't arises because you are nowhere aware that by such negligent action somebody in the 7th floor is going to die. Okay, yes, you are liable to the extent of the accident that you caused to the child, but not to the child's mother. That is remoteness of liability, and that does not attract any liability. Or in a nutshell, all that you need to remember, if your actions or omissions are causing direct liability, then yes, there is tortious liability. But if it is remote or completely unseen, in that case the liability position will not be there, so that will not be considered as tort. So that's about the liability position. So we understood what are legal rights in the sense of private legal rights and public legal rights. We also understood what are absolute rights and qualified rights, and then we also understood the liability position as to direct and remote. Now moving further on causing injury or damage, we need to understand two very important principles. They are Damnum Sine Injuria, means damage without injury, and Injuria Sine Damnum, which means injury without damage. Now these are the two very important principles, and if you observe that I have put serial number 2 and 3 there, because in my next video I am going to cover the concept of Damnum Sine Injuria, that is damage without injury, and in my third video I am going to cover the concept of Injuria Sine Damnum, which means injury without damage. There we are going to understand the concept with lot of case laws, and hence I am not touching them here in detail. But to give you a brief idea as to Damnum Sine Injuria and Injuria Sine Damnum, I would like to say few lines. Like for example, Damnum Sine Injuria, damage without injury, means the act of someone has caused some loss or harm or comfort or service break etc. to you, but such act of the other has not caused any legal injury, or it is not violation of any of your legal rights. In that case the question of damages or remedy doesn't arises. That is about Damnum Sine Injuria. Basically, have you gone through some loss or harm? The answer is yes. But has that caused any of violation of infringement of your legal rights? The answer is no. In that case, yes, there is damage, but such damage has not caused any injury to your legal rights, so there is no question of compensation or damages. That is Damnum Sine Injuria. Whereas the second principle, Injuria Sine Damnum, the act of a person has caused legal injury to you, but there is no financial loss or harm or loss of comfort, lot of service, etc. There is no loss as such. But yes, your legal rights are injured. In that case, what happens? Though you have not gone through any kind of damage like loss or harm, you will be still given with damages or remedy, because that is the violation of legal rights, which is very important, and for every violation or infringement of your legal rights there will be compensation. So that's about Injuria Sine Damnum. And when I say for every legal right there needs to be a remedy, we are also moving to the damages part or remedy part, which is the third and the last ingredient to decide the tortious liability. We understood what is civil wrong, which is the first ingredient of tortious liability, an act or an omission which was not supposed to be done or to be done and which is not done are civil wrongs. And then we understood such civil wrong causing injury or damage to the legal rights of a person. And the third important part is they need to have damages or remedy legally. Okay, some or the other law should say that the person who has committed such civil wrong shall pay compensation to the person who has gone through such civil wrong or whose legal rights were violated or infringed. For such person there needs to be compensation or remedy mentioned in some or the other law. Here we are seeing damages, okay, that plural sense is about remedy or compensation, okay. When we are reading it single DAMAGE, that is about harm or loss or legal damage, whereas when we are reading damages under law of tort, it is about remedy or compensation. For every violation of legal rights of someone, the person who has caused the violation, okay, or infringement of others' legal rights has to pay compensation. And for that we have a beautiful principle, that is Ubi Jus Ibi Remedium, or where there is a right there is a remedy. And there I have given serial number 4 because we are going to understand the concept of Ubi Jus Ibi Remedium in my 4th video in this series. And by understanding Damnum Sine Injuria, Injuria Sine Damnum and Ubi Jus Ibi Remedium with the help of case law, our learning on tortious liability comes to an end. That means you need to follow my 2nd, 3rd and 4th video also to completely understand this concept in detail. But for now, in a nutshell, or to sum up this entire session, you need to understand, to decide tortious liability there needs to be existence of 3 ingredients. The first one, there needs to be a civil wrong. Secondly, such civil wrong is causing injury or damage to the legal rights of another person, and for such violation or infringement of legal rights, he or she is going to pay the compensation for the person who has experienced such violation or infringement. Like for example, A has committed a civil wrong which has infringed or violated the legal rights of Mr. X, and A will end paying the remedy or damages to Mr. X. And when we have all 3 components or ingredients, we are saying that is tortious liability. And before concluding, I wanted to give brief handnotes to you guys on this entire subjects, which includes what are private rights, what are public rights, what are absolute rights, what are qualified rights, what are direct liability, what are remoteness of incident with example. And one very important aspect that I have not covered under remedy part, that is the 3rd ingredient, that you should always remember in tort the damages are not defined. If the damages are defined, we are calling it as liquidated damages. Like for example, in contract, if one of the party breaches the contract, the compensation that it has to pay to the other party is already defined in the contract itself. Those are called as liquidated damages. Whereas in tort, the compensation is never already been decided. It is decided by the court for each case based on case-to-case basis. That is why we always say in tort it is unliquidated damages, which means the remedy or the compensation or the damages are not being decided. It is decided after the tort is completed. Once the tortious liability arises, as a last part of discussion, the compensation will be fixed by the court based on case-to-case basis. That is one very important aspect that I missed while explaining the remedy part. Maybe I should have brought that also in the chart. I missed that. So remember, under tort, the damages or the remedy or the compensation are always unliquidated, which means never defined. It is decided based on case to case basis, and it can go to whatever extent based on the court judgment. I hope that is very clear, and I have mentioned just one case law here in this presentation, but I am going to bring lot of case laws when we are discussing second, third and fourth video. I hope you guys will join me there, and with that thinking I am handing over this presentation to Nishan.
Looks like COVID is over. Time to get out of online classes and get into offline classes. It looks like the bird is ready. So am I. With that, I'm concluding this session. Please subscribe our channel. Please like, share and comment our videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.